Okay, so let me just kind of review things, big things that are coming up then before the exam. So, um, right, you've been going through this process of writing up these analysis papers, right? And so then the series of them are all coming due here. And the reason why they're coming due earlier is so that you then have enough time to allocate towards the exam. Now, let's say that you're not at that point yet. Okay, sorry. What I was saying was that, like, if you're running out of time and you're really just kind of getting into this right now, then it would be at that point where you um, choose to be a little late on turning in an analysis paper and focus on the exam. So, what I'm saying to you is don't be late turning in the exam. If you have to be late on something, be a little late in turning in an analysis paper. If it isn't too late, I won't take off any points. If it's a little bit later than it should be, then I may take off some points, but that's just to be fair to everyone else who did things like on time. Um, and I wouldn't make it so that so many points are taken off, it's not worth your effort. So, really, at this point, right, if you were just starting this, I wouldn't try to write all these analysis papers in one day. Um, or I guess 2 days here. I wouldn't try to do it that quickly because it does take a while, unless you're that good of a writer and you feel like you can pull it off. Rather, reorient yourself towards working on the exam to at least complete that on time. So let's talk about what the exam would look like. I'm actually just curious here. So, see, there's a few people at least who haven't finished it yet. Let's talk about the exam. So, the exam does have two parts. Okay, so let's talk about the exam. The exam has two parts. Let's talk about part one. And so really here, what you're doing is you're making a Google Doc or a Word doc, um, something like that, and that would be what you're posting. You can take this exact document and then alter it to what you need it to be. In fact, what I'll do here is I'll also post a Word doc or a Google Doc. That way you can edit it or copy it as you need to as well. So let's start with part one. So in part one, you have multiple choice questions, and you really need to do two things here. Um, you need to obviously pick the best answer, but then you need to tell me why you picked that answer. You could cite a book page number, you could cite somewhere in the lecture. You need some sort of understanding or reference why you say the choice that it is. You could even just say that the answer is the correct answer because of the power of deduction that you said, oh, it can't be A, B, or C, so the answer must be D. That kind of thing is fine. You don't want to just answer like A for number one and then not say anything else. In fact, most of the points will lie in whatever your reasoning is and what your references are for that reasoning. So as you can see here, there's not very many multiple choice questions. There's seven. So if you're writing, and just the last thing I'll say about this part is that if you're only writing 3 to 5 lines, I can imagine that it might to do seven questions. It might even just take you a page, maybe even just a little over a page to do all seven questions. You could have it all on the same page, one after the other after the other. Um, so um, that's kind of what I'm expecting there. I don't expect that most of your time will be spent on that part, on part one. Rather, most of your time will be spent on part two, and most of the points for this exam will be in part two. So, there are also seven questions here. So, what am I looking for? I'm just looking quite simply. What I want you to do is answer the questions, and each of these seven things includes several points. So make sure you take like a line or something and you like underline individual things so that you make sure you're answering each and every little part. And my estimate, my guess, it's just my guess, and take it for what it's worth, is that it would take you about a page at least to do each of those. If you're writing less than a page consistently for all seven, then you're going to just have to assess for yourself that am I just that good of a writer that I did what I had to do, or am I not spending enough time on this? Now, if you write 4 pages for each of these questions, you might be spending a little bit too much time and you could be a bit more efficient in your writing. Because remember, I have to read these all. So I will read them regardless of how much you write, but at some point, if you're giving me a 30-page document total, my head will get a little bit hurt. My head will hurt a little bit from all that. The other thing I would say though for part two is make sure you're providing the references. That would be important as well. Okay. If you have specific questions or you want me to elaborate more on what I'm asking in a question, you are free to email me and ask me any of those kinds of things. Okay, so I hope that helps you understand how to do this exam and to do well on it.